All right, thank you very much, Maradi. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, wherever you are. My name is Nadzrin, and I am currently in Malaysia. I miss Cambodia very much. I've not been able to go back for almost a year now because most of the time, if I'm there like once a month since 2017. So it is sad to not be able to be there with you and deliver this to you personally. However, when we talk about virtual learning, we always focus on what we can do and not worry about what we cannot do. So we always find a different way of doing it. Today's topic will be learning needs analysis, specifically identifying your people's growth needs. Now, I expect that everyone here is either from HR, from L&D, and you would already have a background in learning needs analysis. So if you do, then you are here to just check it out to see what we have different. If you already have that experience, my job is not to repeat what you already know. Okay, so I don't want to teach you something or tell you something that you already experienced it. So for those who are already experts, I apologize. Some of these things might be new. Sorry, some of these things might be too basic. For those who are just coming in, this might be the one for you. All right. So what is learning needs analysis? It is a newer way of saying training needs analysis. If we look at training needs, that's a bit of an older mindset. If you remember, once upon a time, companies used to call their departments training departments. Yeah, and that focus on what we give to the learners, what we give to our employees to learn. But after a while, we discovered that a shift in mindset was necessary. And a shift in mindset is to move towards a learning mindset. Instead of ticking boxes and say, okay, we have done the training, we need to shift to whether the training was good or not, whether it created an impact or not, whether we can earn money as a result of our employees' new knowledge and skills in that training. So the reason why we go from training, we change into learning, is because learning is actually measurable in terms of output, in terms of impact. Yeah. The difference, of course, will be to ask the question to a trainer, have you delivered the content? And the answer is yes, I've delivered the content. But the more important question is to ask the participants, have you learned the content? And the answer is no, I had a lot of fun, we were laughing, but I have not learned anything today. So that means you paid money to the trainer or the training provider, and all they had was just fun, happy, happy, joy, joy, but no actual output. So nowadays, with COVID-19 being as it is, your training dollars are very, very expensive. And your budget becomes very, very reduced. So you want to make sure that whatever you spend for your training programs, whatever you spend to external vendors, external trainers, you must have an impact. You must have a measurable impact to report back to your company. Okay. And where does it start? It starts from this. When we talk about measurement, you must have some way to measure things. Okay. So thank you for attending this morning. Before we kick it off, I will introduce myself a little bit. My name is Nadzrin. I am a partner with the Capacity Specialist, and I am from Malaysia. So we are cousins. There are many words between Malaysia and Cambodia in Khmer and in Malay that are very similar. We have Tong Sampah, you have Tong Samram. We have Semut, which is an ant, and you have Thomap. I still don't know if I can pronounce that properly. Um, we have, I'm trying to remember now. When you say bong, we say abang. So there are many similarities in between how we do things. And us being in the ASEAN region is growing very, very fast in terms of learning and development or learning and performance. And we're leaving behind a lot of our colleagues or our contemporaries in the United States and Europe. So this is an area that's growing very, very fast. Vietnam's growing, Cambodia is growing, Malaysia is growing, Indonesia is growing, Singapore is grown very, very fast. So in order for your people to grow, you need to give them opportunities to grow. You need to give them input to grow. And that's why learning and development is very, very important. Once upon a time, it was just part of HR. But if you can separate that and you turn it into your own unit, into your own department, then you'll be able to focus even more. So I am a learning and performance specialist based out of Malaysia, but I do come to Cambodia, not this year, have not come since March. Maradi, when was the last time I came? March 2020? Was it February 2020? Just before everything hit. So Again, I do miss it. I miss my team over there. My whole team is doing work without me or separate from me, and I am a professional learning facilitator. We have created through a TTT program, a special TTT program to create professional learning facilitators in Cambodia. And I think we have about 90 people right now, if I remember the number right. And these people, how they run courses is not by training, boring training per se. They use very calibrated, facilitated activities, questions, discussions, high impact emotional activities, gamification, and the ability to get audience to actually teach back what they learned. So, what is a PLF? A professional learning facilitator is someone who focuses to make learning easy to the audience, not focus on the training, what they are going to give or what they are going to say, focuses on the output. And that's been the whole theme of the capacity specialists in Cambodia and beyond. So, as also in Malaysia, I do a few other things. I run my own company here, which is aligned with what PCS does. And I'm a part-time lecturer in intercultural communications at the International Islamic University in Malaysia. And where do I come from? Well, my corporate background is from a company called Accenture. I was with Accenture Learning. Can I just get a show of hands? How many people have heard of Accenture? Please tell me yes or no. I do know that Accenture is not present in Cambodia. I don't know whether that's true anymore. Okay, people typing in the text chat. Okay, no, no. Okay, so yes, it's not popular there. It is one of the largest consulting companies in the world with about 500,000 staff. And as a result of that, it's difficult for us to upskill our people without having a proper learning needs analysis. So a lot of what I'll be sharing with you today comes from that experience, comes from that background, which might be a little bit different from what you're used to. Okay, so let's kick it off for this morning. First question is, when we talk about learning needs analysis, we are talking about needs. We're talking about what our employees need. So my question to you is, when you do a learning needs analysis or a training needs analysis, what do you as HR, what do you as an L&D, what information do you require in order to do your analysis? I'm going to mute my mic and my camera for about 3 minutes. Please type in your answers to the text chat now. All right, I don't see any answers yet. So if you're not going to type any answers in the text chat, please type in N for Nazrin so I know to proceed. Because if you are going to type, I will wait for you. Okay, so Tida says language, soft skills, critical thinking, leadership capacity. Thank you. So these are the things you believe they need in order for them to do the work. At the same time, you will need to know this information as well. Thank you, Tida. Anybody else? Which is based on year-end review performance, review result, and discussing with employee. Okay, good. They need us to provide them soft skills and hard skills. Okay. All right. Anybody else? There are 11 people in the room. So let's see, we have 11 answers. Their main task, current issues. All right. So this tells me that we have quite a lot of experienced people in the room. And why are you here? Well, you're here to see if there's anything different. Okay. Any more? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, cool. So since we don't have a lot of people, I doubt that this webinar will take a long time, but I do want to share with you a few things that you already know of. But more importantly, how do you convince your superiors? How do you convince your supervisors and leadership that this is important? So the idea is a lot of things that we struggle with in L&D, in any organization, even in Accenture before, is that they don't seem to understand the importance of learning. Okay, so when I was at Accenture, what happened was Accenture was just like any other company where when times are hard, when things are bad, when the income is low, revenue is down, the first thing they cut is training. The first thing they say, oh, stop all services. So the services are the first ones to get cut. But here's the problem. When you stop training people now, they don't have enough input to grow. 5 years down the line, when you have money again, you start training again, you will have created managers that for the last 5 years have not grown. So whatever people you have put into those positions during those 5 years are people who are not qualified. Think about that for a while. If you had a child, right, and your child was growing up, and you stopped giving them good nutrition for 5 years, what would happen to the child? You would have a stunted child. She would not be taller. She would not be agile. She would not be fit, not healthy. So here, the problem with leadership sometimes is that they see cash because cash is physical. You can see it. So they worry about cash flow, but they never worry about knowledge flow because you cannot see it. Our job as an L&D is to convince leadership that cash flow and knowledge flow are just as important. One is for the physical body of the company, the cash flow, and the other one is for the intellectual body of the company. Because if a company does not learn, a company does not grow. A company that does not grow will be stuck doing things in the old way because they don't know new ways. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I may suggest, this is a bit of an old book, but if you ever need to pitch or propose, not argue, but really convince your leadership, this book is fantastic. It's called The Fifth Discipline. It is very old. Okay, not very old. It was published in the late 90s by Peter M. Senge. Peter M. Senge, he said in the book that we will never transform the prevailing system of management without transforming our prevailing system of education. They are the same system. He goes on to say that cash flow and knowledge flow should go together. When they are separated or one is less, the body dies or the brain dies. So this is an amazing new book, amazing book that I believe you should be able to find PDFs of. I don't know if you can buy it anymore, but I cherish my copy. And when I first got this book when I was very young, I remember having it at a restaurant. I brought it along and I was having breakfast with my wife, and I put the book on the table, and this old man in the next table, he looks over to me and he says, "That's a very good book." And I found out later that this man was a high-ranking officer in a Malaysian organization, very high. So that was enough to convince me. So you need to be able to convince your organization as well, if they're not convinced yet, that we need to move from an old school training mentality of viewing training as a cost, right? It's like we're going to the shop and we're buying a book. That's not the case. We're not buying a book. We are investing in a learning program. So move from the idea of cost to investment. And this is what Accenture did. Like I said, Accenture was like many other companies. They viewed training as a cost, not as an investment. So one of the first chief learning officers, in fact, we didn't have a chief learning officer at the time. This guy was made chief learning officer after he persuaded leadership. So his name is Ted Waddington. And what he did was he proved to the organization that spending for training gets you 353% in return. Now, I want you to think about that for a while. For every dollar that you spend, you get that dollar back. You get that dollar back, and you get an extra $3.53. In total, $4.53 in your hand. So how do they measure this? Well, here's the thing: you cannot have learning needs analysis only. You need to also have learning output analysis. What happens after, to measure whether the money spent was well spent? What was the output? And we'll talk about that a little bit today as well. So, a recap: number one is We need to remove old school training mentality, and then we need to stop doing level 1 evaluations only. Now, please tell me in the text chat so I can benchmark. Are you familiar with the Kirkpatrick model of training impact and training evaluations? Give me a yes or no. I'm at home today and my neighbor is doing some sort of renovation next door, so I apologize for that. Okay, a lot of people are saying no. Sifa, I apologize if we go over this because you already know this, but it's important for everyone. Guys, whenever we measure our training programs, at the end of the program, we give out a form. What do you call that form? Tell me in the text chat. We give out a form to the participants. What is that form called? Okay, I don't know if you heard me clearly. Let's try that again. At the end of every training program that we run, right, we give a form to the participants to fill. Okay, which says training evaluation form. Thank you. Anybody else? What do you call it in your company? Yes, we got a post-test form. Now, a post-test form is different from a training evaluation form. Okay, we'll talk about that. Hi, Tida. Nice to see you. Okay, looks like there's no other answers coming. There's evaluation. Okay, what are you evaluating? In many cases, you are evaluating, yes, Sifa, it is a satisfaction form. According to Professor Donald Kirkpatrick, he says there are 5 levels of evaluating the impact of a training program. And level number 1 is the lowest level. The lowest level is called L1 or level 1 evaluations. It is nothing more than identifying how satisfied the participants are with the course. So the program, the questions will be, did you like the course? How well did you like the course? Was the trainer entertaining? Was the trainer effective? Blah blah blah, things like that. So that's not a test. That's not an assessment. That's actually just a survey. Level 2 is when you find out how much they learned. So how do you do this? You give a post-test form. So immediately after the course, you give a test to see how much they remember, how much they understand. So look at this. Level 1 is very easy to do. Level 2, a bit more difficult because you need to understand assessments. If you're not versed in, like school exams or university exams, then you won't be able to prepare a good assessment so that at the end of the course, after 2 days, we measure how much they learned. But here's a problem. When you go for a 2 day course, of course, at the end of 2 days, you remember everything. What about 3 months from now? What about 6 months from now? So the level 2 evaluations are done way after. Okay, so we're going to talk about that later. In that, the higher up you measure, the more data you have on how effective a course is. All companies I know of in Malaysia, they do only level 1 evaluations because it's easy. But it's the easy one that also does not help us grow. Okay, what questions do you have before we continue? If you have no questions, give me an N in the text chat. N for Nazrin, please. Since this is a webinar, then we are not able to communicate by voice, but the best way to communicate is via you chatting with me. So if you have no questions, give me an N in the text chat so we can move on. Otherwise, we waste a bit of time when I go, what? Any questions? And I wait 5 seconds and we wasted 5 seconds. Okay, Sifa says, want to know a good way of assessment for level 2. Thank you. Remind me when I get to that slide. Yes, Sifa? Okay, cool. Let's move on. So, I'm going to recap for all L&D people. We should know this already. This is the spectrum of people development, which is the process of how we understand, how we implement, and how we measure the impact of our people development. Now, what is people development? It is everything that falls under talent management, growth. We talk about getting people motivated. We talk about getting people upskilled. We talk about getting people right opportunities within organizations. So it's all that. So in order for us to have a good understanding of that, we need to have good understanding of competencies. So tell me in the text chat, how many people are familiar with competency management systems? Yeah, even a little bit. Competency management systems. Have you ever put together a competency framework before? Do you know what it is? Okay, so Tina says yes, good. Anyone else? Yes. Okay. So everyone should know. Okay, that's all right, Pin. No problem. Yes, but not so clear. Okay. Again, I apologize for the background noise. Uh, there's no way I can run from this. He's right next door. So I will ask that let's all ignore it. Okay. So once we are clear on the competencies within the organization, then we need to implement the learning. So this is where the LNA is important. You need to understand what competencies you want for your people to have. Then you can get the right training to create the learning that they get. Okay, so if you don't know what you want, like competencies, what are competencies? Let's look at like this. If I were to give you an example of getting married, you want to find the perfect partner, you want to find your life partner. Competencies are the criteria that you look for in that partner. Is the partner someone who's honest, someone who is good looking, is tall? Not everybody wants to marry someone who's much shorter than they are, so it's a real criteria. Someone who lives in a city. If they live in the provinces, maybe a bit more difficult. I want someone who lives close by, so the family is also close by, we don't have to travel too far on holidays. What other criteria that can you think of, right? So competencies are criteria of what knowledge, what skills we want our people to have. Learning is where we actually create the create and implement the programs, the workshops, the courses, the webinars, whatever you have, to get the learning, to create that learning within the people. And then last one is performance. So you are measuring at every level. What is performance? When they learn, after they learn, what do they do with that learning? Do they just sit back and nothing changes? It all just remains the same? Or do they actually do something with it? Do they actually go out and they change something in the organization? They actually do better? Do they reduce mistakes? If they go for a writing course, does it take less time for them to create a proposal? When they go for a communication course, do conflicts reduce in the organization? When they go for a sales course, their sales go up. So performance is by far the most difficult thing to do here, because you are measuring based on different people in the organization who have different KPIs. This is where the headache starts for L&D. Yeah, how do we measure? Because everybody is a different KPI, so we have to measure differently. Okay. So Tariq says, what's the difference between competencies and capabilities, Nazrin? Well, depending on who you listen to, what school of thought you come from, what certification you go from, some people say it's the same, some people say it's different. For me, a competency is the knowledge that you have and you are able to practice it at a skill. A capability is what level of skill you are at. So, for example, if you are competent at learning and development, but your capability is at maybe year one, okay? So if you are year five, that means you are far more experienced, you are more expert. Now, you will find other people disagree with this definition. That's okay. This is my understanding. So, Tariq, the idea is when you're faced with a definition or a terminology, focus more on the meaning of the terminology versus the word itself. Because, if you've heard of the words learning objectives and learning outcomes, there are so many schools of thought out there. The academic school of thought, which in universities, learning outcome is what you aim for at the end of a course, a university course, right? But learning objective is what we use in the professional development world, in the corporate world, or at the end of a 2-day course. These are the learning objectives, right? So I hope to answer that question, Tariq. Yes? Okay. Sifa says, tell me how we can measure the performance for the behavior. Well, that actually goes back to the competencies at itself. If you are clear on the competencies, then it is clear to measure the the actual behavior. Now, I'm going to stop share for a while because I want to show you a few tools you can use for your to do your competency management system. And this is fun because a lot of people say they've never seen this before. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a website called the Competency Library. It's by a company called TMA, and TMA is a consulting company that has published this online, and a lot of competency managers use this. So it is competencylibrary.com. I'm going to post that into the text chat. Where is the text chat? Disappeared. Okay, so that's the text chat competency library like that. Let's take a look at some of these competencies: accountability, adaptability, ambition, assertiveness, attention to detail, business orientation, coaching. Wow, that's a lot. Commercial power, courage, creativity, flexible behavior. Now, this is such a powerful site when you want to use this to build competencies that when you click on any one of these, okay, it takes a while to load sometimes. When you click any one of these, you actually get behavioral examples, development potential, interview questions, development activities, and coaching advice. And if you're not sure what it is, it says here what is accountability. So you actually have a definition. Now let's take a look at some behavioral examples. General, operational, tactical, strategical. So general means basically a very base understanding, level one understanding, basic understanding. So this will be capability, a general capability. Yeah, if you go by my definition, Tariq, this will be a general capability. Someone who is accountable, generally adheres to deadlines and appointments, is a transparent when he or she anticipates problems and errors, delivers work on time and as agreed, and takes responsibility for mistakes. At the operational level, continues to work effectively without losing sight of quality standards. Now, this person is better than the general person. So if you just join the company, when we do performance management, we do assessment, we might find you to be general because you're still getting used to the job. Maybe after a year or so, you are at operational level, level 2. Or after that, you go up to tactical level. And then last but not least, you come up to leadership level. So this usually is still tactical, is still in the team. Strategical is when you start becoming a team lead. So 4 different levels of capability under one competency. Now tell me if you understood what I just said. Tell me yes or no in the text chat. If you tell me no, please ask me a question and I will answer it for you. Okay, we got one yes from Savanara. Thank you. Anyone else? This is the only way I can communicate with you. So if you keep quiet, I do not know whether you understand or not. Okay, good. And it's a fantastic website, right? I love this. I've been using this for years. Okay, now let me show you what I've done with a client using Accenture's model of competency framework mapping. And this is a training company, by the way. The one I'm talking about here, the client is a training company. They have 90 staff, and I have already sanitized, so there's no PNC information here. I've gotten their permission to share. Now, there are 2 ways to do a competency framework. You can do bottom up, which means you go to one department and you do department by department by department. If your organization has good, strong leadership, you can actually convince them to do top down. Okay. Everyone tell me, do you understand the difference between bottom up and top down? Yes or no? If you give me a lot of no's, I will take some time to explain it. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. So a bottom-up practice is when you go into a department. Let's just say it's finance department, and you ask finance department, tell me what you do. What are your standard processes? This guy, what does this guy do? Or this guy processes the claims. Okay, what about this guy? Or this guy manages the payments. What about this guy? Or this guy is he's our data analyst. Whatever data we get, we'll throw to him. He will put it into nice spreadsheets for us. He will. Okay, so you get the key competencies. Okay, the key competencies are exactly what they do. So in a restaurant, no, let's go to brown. Let's have brown coffee because I miss brown coffee very much. If you go to brown coffee, you will have the barista who makes the drinks. You will have the cashier who takes care of the cash, right? So the cashier's key competencies will be different from the barista's key competencies. The cashier's key competency needs to be detail oriented. She needs to make sure that she follows and she gives back money exactly as is. She accepts money as is. She must be detail oriented. The key competency for the barista, not necessarily detail oriented, but process oriented, which means that he or she must be efficient, cannot waste time. Now, between the two of them, they will share one core competency, which is customer oriented service. Okay, so both of them, while they do different things, they will have different key competencies. Yeah, but both of them must share a core competency. I hope you understand the difference. A key competency is what they do individual work, sometimes maybe two baristas, so both of them will have the same key competencies. Do you understand what I just said? Yes or no? Thank you, Sifa. Okay, so that's a bottom-up approach. So you do only for the finance. What about the rest of the company? The rest of the company does not have a competency framework, only finance does. Top down is when you approach from leadership, from CEO downwards, and you build the core competencies first before you build the key competencies. So let me take you through a journey. This company is called IK Academy. It's a training provider with 90 staff. Most of their staff are salespeople. They just do calls every day to companies. Hi, we have a training program. Do you want to join? Hi, we have a training program. Do you want to send your people? Hi, we have a training program. Do you want us to send a trainer into your company? So they wanted to align all of their people into one core company culture. And to enculture it, you need to believe the same thing. In order to believe the same thing, you need to have core values. So they have three core values. The first one is vision. The second one is integrity. The third one is passion. Now, look very carefully, right? These three are core values. What is a value? A value is a shared belief. They're not competencies. Vision is not a competency. Oh, I have vision. That's not a competency. That's what you have. I believe in vision. I believe in integrity. I believe in passion. So when we do top down, this is one option we can use to make everything in the company consistent. We take each core value and we break it up into core competencies. And for consistency's sake, the leadership and I sat down and we did a workshop together. And for consistency's sake, we chose 5 core competencies for every value. And it looks nice on paper. It's easy to remember. Okay, so for vision, we actually use the TMA competency library. You'll see some of these words are there. We looked at the definitions, the ones that we like and we didn't like. Sometimes we change the words or we change the definitions. So for vision, they have adaptability, perseverance, creativity, results orientation, planning, and organizing. So all of this, how to know whether you practice the core value of vision, it's when you have these core competencies. Next, integrity. How do you know whether you value integrity? When you have accountability and discipline, assertiveness and decisiveness, conduct and ethics, empathy and protecting the team. Now look at this, very interesting. When we looked at the library just now, we saw the word accountability. Where does and discipline come from? Well, this is where you as an L&D and your leadership can sit down. You can create your own competency with your own definition. You don't necessarily have to just use the library because every company is different and every company will need to have a different core competency. And last but not least is passion. So we have focus on quality and detail, teamwork and energy, customer orientation, courage and initiative, continuous self-improvement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, think about this for a while. If you have such a consistent framework, would it be then easy for you to plan your annual learning blueprint? Give me a yes or no. If you know that everybody in the company needs these 15 core competencies, would it then be easy for you to plan your annual learning blueprint? Yes. So you know that they need to focus on quality and detail. So when the training vendor comes to you and says, we have a training program, and you go, okay, can you share with us, um, does your training program help our people to focus on quality and detail? Oh, yes, it does. Okay, show us which part of the outline, which part of the program. Does does your program teach our people to be customer oriented? Oh, yes, it does. Okay, show us where. So this helps you to plan you're training for the whole organization. Remember, this is core competencies. Core competencies means something that everybody needs. It's not key competencies. You wouldn't send the whole organization to study Excel, Microsoft Excel, because maybe only certain people in the organization, like finance, needs it, right? Customer service might not need Excel, so you don't send the whole. But here's the thing: everybody in the company needs to go for training. Everybody. And if they're not going, then you are holding back parts of your company. At the minimum, every year you should be. This company has what they've done is, once they had this framework, every year they plan their annual learning blueprint based on these 15 core competencies. They make sure that there is training for all their staff, whether face to face or virtual, that covers all of these. Cool. All right. What questions do you have so far? Please ask me now. If you have no questions, give me an N in the text chat. Okay. So the framework that I use, so Lina says, how can we define the competency by one skill? All right. You're going to have to step back a little bit. What is a skill? A skill, there are three definitions. Number one is that when you practice something, if you practice blinking your eyes and you become very good at it, that's a skill. Another definition is a skill is something manual. So baking a cake is a skill. Building a house is a skill, but communication is not a skill. So that's a definition that's also out there. The third one is if we accept both one and two, and if you practice something that is necessary and useful for the organization, that's considered a skill. So if you have that idea, what is a skill? The ability to persuade someone, okay, is considered a skill. So now, Lina, help me out. Which of these core competencies will help you to master persuasive skill? Out of these five, Lina, choose one that will help your people to learn persuasive skill. Okay, competency is what they have, skill is what they can do. Lina, I need your help now. So on this slide, choose one of the five, or maybe two of the five. Which of these core competencies can help develop persuasive skill? Any idea? Okay, anyone else can join in as well. What do you think? Which of these core competencies can help us develop persuasive skill in our people? Okay, we got result oriented. If you're not result oriented, how are you going to persuade? You don't know in which direction you're taking them. Perseverance, also good. If you give up too easily, then you're not going to be persuade people. Thank you. Okay, and creativity. If you're not adaptable enough to change tactics, you will not be able to persuade people. Good. Let's take a look at integrity. Does integrity contribute at all to persuasive skill? Perseverance is never give up. Always, always see, always pushing ahead. Never give up. Okay, so out of these five, which do you think is contribute to persuasive skill? Anyone? Lina, I hope that answers the question. Yeah, perseverance is never die. We'll always keep going. Okay, guys, everyone, come. I know it's a webinar, but I would prefer that we interacted. There's only 15 of us anyway. Accountability and discipline for persuasive skill. Okay, okay, I guess so. Number four, empathy. That's a good one. Okay, so out of these four, empathy would look like to be the most important one to be able to teach. Okay, thank you. Let's try the third one, passion. So which of these would help you to master a persuasive skill? What do you think? Remember, the persuasive skill is an emotional skill, yeah? Customer orientation, okay? So how are you going to persuade someone if you cannot give them something in order for you to get something. Remember, uh, you cannot just ask, you must give them something in return. Hey, Kaka, can you please take care of my baby today? If you take care of my baby today, I will buy you lunch tomorrow. So there has to be customer orientation. Well done, well done. So, Lina, does that answer the question of how competencies are related to skill? One skill requires several competencies. Lina, does that answer your question? Okay, good. So this is one way of doing it. And let me show you the magic of how this works, right? Or not how this works. What pops up when you use this is I then went ahead to build a spreadsheet, which is their framework. Now let me see if I can get this for you to see clearly. Now, tell me if you can see. You might have to squint or go full screen. Tell me if you can see clearly my whole Excel spreadsheet. Give me a yes or no. No? Okay, so let me increase the size a little bit. Whoa, whoa, that's too much. Okay, now can you see it? Okay, can you see it clearly? All right, cool. So if you look on the side, this is for IK Academy. If you look at the side, you have the core values, which are, and I need to change this word. This was a typo, which I never changed. I should have changed that. Okay, so core values, and you have vision, integrity, passion on the left-hand side. And here we have the 5 core competencies that we identified for each. There you go. Okay. And for each one of these, if we have core competencies, we need to make it clear to ourselves and to our trainers and to our management and leadership. What are we looking for? How do we measure our people? So at a high level, we divide into 4 types of measurements: values, which is what we believe; goals, which is what we want. We listen to our employees and we listen to them talk. What do they want? Do they want a promotion? Does it look like they want to stay very long in the organization? We listen very carefully. Narrative is, what are the things that they say on a daily basis? Or this is so difficult, or this is wrong, or I don't like this. What are the words they say? And then rituals, what do they do every single day? So if we take an example of adaptability, how do we know if someone is adaptable? Well, they believe that they are agile. And if you believe you're agile, then you can say we want to be agile and quick to respond positively in any situation. This is what they aim for, which means when the situation comes, this is what we are going to do. And what do we say? The team will always be positive to say, wow, okay, no problem. Challenges are meant to be overcome. Let's go. Rather than, oh no, another problem. When you hear, oh no, another problem, then probably the adaptability is quite low. Okay. And what do they do every day? You observe your staff. Do they overcome challenges every day by continuously learning new knowledge and skills? Do your people go, oh, boss, this is the first time I've experienced this problem. Let me go and do some research. So you as a supervisor at a very high level, without even needing to go into numbers, into facts, data, uh, uh, surveys, you can see, all right, this person has this has narrative, has goals, has values. And again, if this is new to you, I can understand if it's confusing, but we need to train the management. We need to train L&D, HR, and their leaders to be able to use this. So my question: do you think this is useful for you? Lina says messages you to a bit slow. Okay, I will slow down then. Thank you, Lina. I apologize. But do you think this will be useful? Okay. So now the competency framework, there are many schools of thought. Some competency framework, they build the school of thought goes behavioral competencies, and then what's the other one? Technical competencies, and then leadership competencies, and then they do operational competency, if I remember right, functional competencies. Okay, so that's more very specific at the lowest level. At the higher level, this is what you do. So remember I said if you do bottom up, okay, bottom up, you go into one department, you identify their behavioral competencies, you use the TMA competency library. From top down, this is what you can do with the competency library. Thank you, Lina, and I apologize, I did not know that. Okay, do you want to see the rest of the spreadsheet? Give me a yes or no. If yes, I'll take you on a tour, but I will not read it out. I'll just show it to you. Okay, let's just run around the spreadsheet a little bit, yeah? Okay, I'll reduce the size a bit. Okay, can you still read it? Give me a yes or no. Is it still readable? Okay, so for vision, um, I guess the more important one I want you to focus on is the narrative. Look at the narrative, because the narrative one is easiest to measure. Is what people say on a daily basis. So look at that. How to know if your people have integrity? If they say things like, if we make a mistake, we don't hide it, we fix it quickly together. Yes means yes, no means no. And these are these things you cannot you cannot indoctrinate. They either do it or they don't. In a couple of companies I worked at, there's this, when you listen to the narrative. What is narrative? Is storytelling. When you listen to the staff say, there's no point, boss will not listen. Be very careful. If one person says that, okay, that's one person. If 10 people say that, as a culture, if 10 people say boss will never listen, don't bother telling him, or don't bother bringing this up to him. He will not change, he will not take your ideas. If they are saying things like this, okay, then there's something wrong with the organization. You need to detect it very, very quickly. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Have you experienced this before? Yeah. So cultural. Okay, I repeat. Yeah, one way about um, the reason why we do competency framework is we want to understand what we want to see in our people, and we need to measure. At the lowest levels, we can measure whether they pour the coffee well or not. We can measure whether they put enough temperature to heat up the coffee or not. But at the highest levels, when you look at behaviors, how do you measure behaviors? So the one way to measure behaviors is to watch what they say. This gives us clues into whether they are aligned with the core values and whether they have these core competencies or not. At the lowest levels, we measure during the training, we measure during the day. Yeah, but at the highest levels, you're just watching. This gives you an indication of what competencies they have. And I gave you an example. In some organizations, what is on the wall, the core values are sitting on the wall, it is not sitting in their hearts. And they say things like, uh, this company just says they want us to report any ineffectiveness. But whenever we report, they do nothing with the information. They just say, we're just complaining. So that narrative, like I said, if one person is saying it, it's one person's opinion. If 10 people are saying it, that's a culture right there. And if all 10 are saying, that means they all agree with it. And that's dangerous. Okay, you cannot pretend. You cannot have your slogan up there, your company motto, but nobody follows the motto. So then this is where we talk about culture. Okay, I ask you again, do you understand what I just said? Scary, I know, because we're talking about reality here. Yep. So these are some of the problems that HR and L&D face. What's on paper is not what's on the ground in people's hearts, in people's behavior. Okay, cool. So we've covered competencies. Let's wrap up today about what we do in terms of making this work very quickly in learning needs analysis. There are three big steps that you want to take. Okay, number one, you get to know your business stakeholders. This is now bottom up. That was top down. This is now bottom up style. Identify the business problems that they want to solve. Okay, look at this. Why business problem? Why not knowledge problem? Well, a business problem, which is lack of sales, lack of creativity, lack of efficiency, lack of effectiveness, comes from knowledge and skills. Attitude, knowledge and skills. There's a lack of attitude, correct attitude. There's a lack of correct knowledge and the lack of correct skills. So you identify from the business problems first, not from what they need to know. Because how would you know what they need to know? The heads of department, when you survey them, oh, my staff have communication problem. None of the heads of department, I'm going to say this right now, none of the heads of department I know of ever went for a degree in psychology, in understanding what people need. And this is the biggest problem with TNA. When you give a form, and I'm sorry if you're still doing this, but I want to inform as many L&D people as possible. When you do this, you give power to the HODs to determine what courses their staff go for, because they think they know. Okay, that's easy. That's an easy way of you doing work. But if you really care about your people, you want to implement a deeper assessment where you start from the business problems. Okay, what's your business problem in your department? Oh, my department is very slow. Okay, what do you mean slow? Well, every time I ask them to do work, this report doesn't come, and you discover, oh, it's not a communication issue. They just don't know where to find the information for the report. Oh, so what do they need? They need research methodology training. Oh, I didn't know that, said the HOD. HOD says, I thought it was just a communication issue. So you need to do this. And in this webinar, I cannot give you all of the techniques, but I can give you a head start. The head start is measure, or you ask from the problem, the business problem, not from the knowledge issue, because then you will not be able to get the correct answer, or most of the time, not correct answer. Number 3, define the purpose with 5 levels of impact up front. Okay, so once you get to know your stakeholders, you have that already. Identify the business problems, uncover and define their most critical challenges, identify and agree what areas that L&D, learning and development, can provide solutions. So is it going to be coaching? Is it going to be mentoring? Is it going to be training? Is it going to be self-study? What is it that L&D can help with? And then agree on the purpose of the learning and development programs and the concrete metrics at each of the 5 levels. What is a metric? Is the measurement. How do you know whether they have achieved this competency or not? Now, that being said, let me introduce you to the Kirkpatrick model for measuring learning impact. Now, everyone, if you have the opportunity, please get your company to send you for this training. TCS doesn't do this training, yeah, because this is owned by the Kirkpatrick Associates. Sorry, Kirkpatrick Partners. They have certificate at the and they use these metals as a certificate level, not level 1, level 2, level 3. They use bronze certification for the lowest level of certification, where you are to use these 5 levels in your learning needs analysis, in your measurement of performance. Okay, level 2, I believe, is called silver, and level 3 is called gold. So gold means that you are a Kirkpatrick champion in your organization, where you can help HODs, you can help leadership to clearly measure the impact of the learning and whatever training you give them, whatever coaching, whatever mentoring that you do, to such a level that you can measure how much money it makes you. So please self-study this. There's a lot of material on Kirkpatrick. Level 1 is what Don Kirkpatrick says is called the satisfaction level. Yeah, we give a survey. Did you like the course? That's everybody does that. It does nothing. Yeah, all that data you collect, nobody reads it. There's nothing you can do to change. The best you have there is, what can we do better in this course? The level 2 is a learning measurement, and this is just like in exams in universities and schools. Did they learn? But the thing is, learning in exams and schools is what we call retention and comprehension, whether they remember and whether they understand. Now, tell me, is remembering and understanding enough to do your job? Is remembering and understanding enough to do your job? Tell me yes or no. No. You need to actually change your behavior on a daily basis. If you went for a report writing course, then every day you must be writing reports in this new way. And this is where the challenge comes. In Malaysia, I'm not talking about Cambodia, I'm just talking about Malaysia. I have people who come for my course and say, thank you, Mr. Nadzrin, that was a fantastic course. But when I go back to my organization, my supervisor will insist I use his way. You know how much that breaks my heart when someone says that? they will insist I use this way. And they go, why do you come for the training anyway? Well, because I need to come for 7 days training in a year. So this is a very bad culture of what we call box ticking, checklist. Yeah, just tick, tick. Okay, went for training, went for training. But there's no actual change in the organization. And that change, thank you, Sakal, that change starts from behavior change, which is level 3. When the behavior change happens, that means every day they're doing it a different way now. They're not doing it the old way. And that's how you create, if everyone in the organization does it a different way after they come back from training, the organization grows. This is where the growth starts. Now, at level 4, as a result of that behavior, what concrete results do you have? Measurable results. If they go for a report writing course, do they save time? Before this, they could only produce 3 reports a day. Now they can produce 5 reports a day. So that's a measurable result. And when you take that measurable result and you multiply by their salary, by the amount of money they're paid per minute, per second, per hour, you get an ROI, a return on learning. So if there's a 30% reduction in time, multiply that by how much this person is paid in a month, and you get that number, maybe $300, $400. We spent 1,000 for the course, we got back $300. So the ROI is 30%. Does this make sense to you? If yes, give me a yes or no. I'm going very slowly because a lot of people said no, they're not familiar with Kirkpatrick. Okay, good. So when you set up your LNA, you must make sure that your LNA conforms to these 5. That will make it measurable. If not, you will not be able to measure after the fact. Okay, so last but not least, before we close for the day, let me show you a very simple model called the ADL when you want to do bottom up very quickly. So we talked about top down, we talked about gathering requirements, competencies. How about emergency or quick LNA? This one is from our consultant. Her name is Laurie Figueredo. She is my mentor. She's my teacher, and she is also one of our key collaborators in the capacity specialists. And we use this methodology in TCS whenever we run programs for our clients. She says that the ADL, very simple, very straightforward. When you gather business requirements or business problems from the department, don't talk about the problem, talk about what they want to achieve. So if you're running a training program, and let's say the training program is meant to last 90 days, which is what we recommend. We recommend that the training program lasts 90 days. If you do a 2-day workshop course where they have to be there face to face for the whole 2 days, and then for the next 90 days, they have projects and coaching sessions to attend. Okay, not every day, but maybe once every week or once every 2 weeks, to ensure that the behavior change is permanent. Okay, that's how you change behavior. It takes about 90 days to change. So it's not enough to send people for a 2-day training program and expect their behavior to change. If you want to measure at level 3 and level 4 at behavior level and results, then you need to be able to change the behavior, if not permanently, at least over those 90 days. So what do? Number one, we set a target. What do we want to achieve? Let's just say, Mr. LND, I want my staff to improve their commitment. Okay, that's good. Anything else? I want them to improve their independence. Okay. And then HOD says, hang on, I got 10 more. No. Human beings cannot change that fast. Let's focus on 2 first. Okay, let's focus on improved staff commitment and improve staff independence. Okay, so can we measure this? Yes, we can measure by watching what they say, how they say over the next 90 days. Do you see that they are willing to stay back more to be able to finish a particular piece of work? Do you say that they are asking more questions to understand the job? Okay. Improve staff independence and improve staff commitment. There are things that you have to do on a daily basis that's new. You have to start building positive relationships with their team and others. You need to coach your team, and you need to influence your team and others as well. So in this case, we want to teach the leadership of the department how to improve their staff commitment and staff independence by doing this. So the A stands for achieve, the D stands for do. What must you, as the head of department, do every single day. Every single day. These three things. Now, what does he need? What does he or she need to learn in order to do? Well, in order to build positive relationships, you must learn rapport building skills. And under that, you must learn how to read body face expressions, matching and mirror behaviors. How about coaching? Oh, you guys tell me, what do they need to learn in order to be able to coach their team? Because I've been talking a lot. You tell me, what do they need to learn in order to coach their team? Yes, I'm expecting an answer from you. Okay, so someone says they have to know their team needs and lacking. Okay, good. So their strengths and their weaknesses. Any more? What else do you think they need to learn? Say what they need to learn. Yeah, not what they need to know only data, but what they need to learn. Coaching method. Yes. If you don't have coaching method, how are you going to coach? They need to complete their gap. Okay. But the question is, what do the HODs need to learn? These are the people who are going for the training program. Critical thinking skill, that's good, because if you don't have critical thinking and you coach people, you're going to fall into quite a bit of bias. Okay, reading, communication skill, thank you. Leadership skill, that's nice. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. So if you notice, the word competency is a very high level do. But when we talk about learn, these are very specific things. So you're right, they need communication skill, but we need to deep dive specifically what do they need to learn. That's how we talk to the training provider and trainer. Okay, this we've done our ADL. These are the things that you must include in your course. You must teach them how to read body language and voice intonations. You must teach them how to match and mirror behaviors. You must teach them how to have a mindset of giving more than expecting, all of this. So the bullet points are actually what they need to learn specifically. Okay, how about influence my team and others? What do they need to learn in order to influence their team and others? Okay, we got teamwork, we got empower the staff, problem solving skill. Not bad. A lot of experienced people in the room. So delegation. Should we include time frame? Life is busier. Well, in the ADL, it's a high level look. We don't include it here. We plan for it in 90 days. So every day you must be doing one of these three things. Better do all three. Every day coach one person. Every day build a positive relationship with one. Every day influence the team. So Sakal, you're right. But if it's a 90-day program, then there's a lot of time to do it. Okay. So you need convincing skills, you need dynamic leadership skills. And this is what we use. This is a quick and dirty, very easy one. It's something I use on a daily basis, and sometimes I don't even need to write it down because it goes automatically in my head. So we've taken you through a journey, very high level, which is not a deep dive course. We teach this specifically step by step. What are the forms that you use? What are the formats that you use? What are the questions that you ask? But today, I hope we've covered something that gets you interested, and maybe you can also use it. So, what questions do you have before we close for the day? Please ask me in the text chat. If you have no questions, give me an N so I know to hand it back to Marudi, and we will close. Yes, I believe, Marudi, we are sharing the presentation, correct?
Yeah, sure. I will share the like a PowerPoint slide in the PDF for someone who complete our feedback form.
Cool. Okay, so we have a requirement for you. If you complete the feedback form, we'll send you the slides. Thank you, Tida. So it looks like there's no more questions. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I apologize. I took extra 8 minutes from your time. I'm going to let you go back to work and pass it back to Mardi. Mardi, all yours.